Coming up,
I hear there's buried treasure up there.
an Alabama mansion leads its owners on a treasure hunt. The results could be worth a fortune. And was it a doghouse?
I looked at it and went, oh my goodness.
Find out what kind of dog it was built for. Then, a home's secret door hides a message in a bottle.
When we found this, it floored us.
Find out what it said.
Next on If Walls Could Talk.
Hi, I'm Mike Siegel. Rumors were flying that this house had a hidden treasure, but no one could find it. That is, until the current owners discovered it, hiding in plain view. Judy and Landon Miller weren't in the real estate market when they went to Alabama to watch a college football game. But that all changed when they saw this 1831 Georgian Greek revival in Tuscaloosa.
We came for a football game and bought a house.
When they first bought the 6,000 square foot home, it was in total disrepair, and it took a team of experts to bring it back to life.
What was some of the major jobs?
Well, essentially everything. When we bought the house, it had only a few plugs and a few bare light bulbs, no heat, no air, one toilet, no kitchen.
And it wasn't easy getting all that work done.
From the moment that we bought the house and its unusual appearance, kind of overgrown, haunted looking and that sort of stuff, when we tried to find people to work on the house, there were workmen who wouldn't work here.
But the couple knew their home was special from the start. It was listed in the National Register as the home of Judge Orman, an English immigrant who became the first Chief Justice of Alabama. But the home also came with some mysteries that the Millers were determined to solve.
So tell me about these rumors that were swirling around the house.
One was that the house was haunted, and the other part of it was that there were hidden treasures in the house.
So far, the Millers haven't seen any ghosts, but they couldn't help wondering, did the judge really leave hidden treasures behind? They'd find that out later, but first they had to sift through a house full of furniture he had left behind, including these bookcases.
These are pretty nice pieces.
There's 4 of them. They're made of the same heart pine that you find in the floors of the house, and most of the original panes of glass are still in them.
The Millers restored them to their original condition and think they could be worth a lot of money today. The couple also found this plantation desk in the living room.
The original builder of the house had had a plantation out of town, and so we assumed the plantation desk would have been his.
They believe it dates back to the late 1700s or early 1800s and think it could be valuable too.
Judy saw an article in a magazine about another desk like this that had been praised for a lot of money.
Could the Millers' desk be worth a lot of money as well? They'd find out later, but not before they'd done some more investigating. As the Millers restored the stately home, they learned its original owner had been a silversmith in England before moving to Alabama. And Landon had a hunch that the home once had a sort of silver lining.
And we've tried to carry that through with the silver chandeliers and the other pieces of silver that you see in the house to kind of, if you will, enhance the original silverness of the house.
But with all the work and restoration, the couple still hadn't found that hidden treasure, and they were on the hunt to find it.
Did you know to begin where to look?
No, not really.
So Landon got busy searching for that treasure, beginning with a peek inside the home's 180-year-old attic. It looked like no one had been up there for years, but in spite of his effort, there was no sign of the mysterious treasure. That didn't stop Landon from opening up the cellar to continue the hunt. It looked like somebody had cleaned the place out long ago. At first, he found only empty cabinets. But then, in a dark corner, something caught his eye. Ornate doorknobs. They were black, but when he cleaned one off, he got a surprise.
We got down to the silver and rock and roll. It was pretty exciting.
The doorknobs were made of silver, and there were 4 sets throughout the house. They even had keyhole covers. Could they be the hidden treasure? Landon brought one of the doorknobs to a dealer who trades in antique hardware.
He was pretty excited, actually. He said, wow, these are original Sheffield silver doorknobs. And he took one look at them and said, I'd like to buy them all. So I figured right away I was onto something.
Looks like the home's treasure was hidden in plain view, but are they really valuable? The Millers were dying to find out, and the discovery made them even more curious about the judge who built their home. It turns out Judge Orman brought the silver doorknobs with him from England. Then, after coming to America and studying law, he bought a plantation and made big money in the business of shipping cotton.
And as his fortunes improved, he fancied the house up with all the other stuff that's in here.
Those Sheffield silver doorknobs and all the furnishings he left behind were bought with his fortunes. But is it all worth a fortune today? Landon and Judy are about to find out.
Hey,
Hi, I'm Selma Paul.
Hey, come on in. Nice to see you. We've been looking forward
Because
to it.
we invited appraiser Selma Paul, an expert in antiques and furniture, to check out the goods.
Shall I start upstairs? Sure. Okay.
I hear there's buried treasure up there. Somewhere.
Excellent.
Find it, please.
I will do my best.
Will the Millers get good news? Are their bookcases a collector's dream?
Very well constructed.
Is the plantation desk worth a wad of cash?
This top appears to be original leather.
Will those silver doorknobs unlock a fortune? The Millers are going to have to wait until appraiser Selma Paul is done investigating to find out. Just ahead, a mysterious building
I looked at it and went, oh my goodness.
ties this Kansas home to a famous author. And later, will the Millers get good news? Could the treasure they found be worth a fortune?
I would estimate the value of your 4 sets to be.
Our expert tells them what they've got when we return.
Our next couple was thrilled when they bought a classic Victorian and started fixing up the place. But when they found a doghouse out back complete with a sink and fireplace, well, they just had to find out what kind of dog used to live here.
When Diane and Peter Kerkanich bought this 1883 Victorian in Atchison, Kansas, they couldn't figure out why it was attracting so much attention from tourists.
We found out that the house was listed in one of the local brochures for historical homes, and that started making sense. Why people would drive by, why people would stop in the front or on the alleyway, get out, take pictures. At first it was a little disconcerting, but get used to it.
They discovered that the home was built by Ed Howe, the founder of the Atchison Globe, a local paper that's still in print today. Did that explain why people still drove by for a look at the house? There was no time to find out, because Peter and Diane needed to get the place ready for their 3 children. And one of their first projects was a rundown-looking building in the backyard. At first, it looked like a very big doghouse.
When I first saw it, I looked at it and went, oh my goodness, that's gonna have to be rebuilt. It was in horrible condition. The roof had failed, the walls were leaning.
Peter almost knocked it down, but something about the place caught his eye.
When we first came through, we looked at it and went, well, what kind of outbuilding would have a fireplace? Then I looked and there was old knob and tube wiring that was coming into the house, so it had electricity, it had water and gas to it. So, it was obviously used for somebody's room. It was kind of neat and kind of sparked our curiosity.
So Peter left it alone and moved on to his next project, insulating the attic.
Well, in the process of cleaning up the attic, I came across this old 1-gallon jug from Coca-Cola. It's actually Coca-Cola syrup, sugar and water, phosphoric acid, caffeine, extracts from coca leaves, cocaine removed, it says, and then cola nuts. That's what goes into Coca-Cola.
The bottle looked like it came from the 1920s, and there were more relics in the attic, including a religious artifact.
Whoever dies wearing this scapula shall not suffer death and have eternal life. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Then, tucked away in a corner, Peter found a canceled check and an old letter written to the editor of the local paper. It was Ed Howe himself.
The 31st of July, 1918, and Mr. Hepburn is writing to Mr. Howe about an article he ran in the newspaper.
Peter and Diane were surprised that something of Mr. Howe's was in the house after all these years. But it still didn't explain why the house seemed to attract tourists who drove by for a look. A little more digging and they discovered some surprising things about Ed Howe. Turns out he was more than a newspaper man, he was a best-selling author.
His most popular is The Story of a Country Town, and they say it kind of emulates the town of Atchison, and that he used that as his inspiration.
Another nice thing about The Story of a Country Town is in the preface it talks about how he wrote the book here in the house.
He also made a connection with the legendary author Mark Twain after he sent Twain a copy of one of his books.
Mark Twain wrote him back, giving him suggestions about his writing, and also kind of an approval how much he had enjoyed the story.
But they still hadn't solved the mystery of that so-called doghouse in the backyard.
We started doing a little bit more of the research and then found out it was not for dogs, but for the husband being in the proverbial doghouse.
So it was a doghouse for when Ed was in the doghouse.
He actually moved into the doghouse when he and his wife were not getting along. And around the turn of the century, his wife got a divorce granted on grounds of desertion because he had actually moved to the doghouse.
No wonder so many people stop by for a glimpse of Diane and Peter's home. They want a peek at that infamous doghouse. And now that he knows its place in local history, Peter plans to put it to good use.
I am going to fix this place up. It's going to have running water. It's going to have heat. It's going to be air conditioned. It's going to be a #1 place.
Diane and Peter are proud of their home's original owner and hope to carry on his legacy for many years to come. That is, as long as Pete doesn't get sent to the doghouse himself. Up next, a Gothic mansion that's hiding a message in a bottle.
When we found this, it floored us.
Then, will our Alabama couple's antiques be worth a wad of cash?
I would estimate the value of your 4 sets to be.
Our expert reveals the shocking answer when we come back.
Our next home was built for stargazers with an observatory on the roof. But when the new owners moved in, they got a real surprise when they read the message in a bottle.
To Deborah and Christopher Allen, this Gothic revival in Elk Ridge, Maryland was right out of a fairy tale. Well, at least to Deborah anyway.
We pulled up in the driveway here. I looked up and it just looked like this amazing balcony, and I think as a little girl you always want to be the princess standing from her balcony looking down, and I think that's, secretly kind of what drew me in.
But her fairy tale home had a dark side. The couple heard it might be haunted.
We spent the night here because there were ghost stories and we weren't real sure how we felt about it. We stood in the library and you could just feel the history.
They didn't see any ghosts, but something else haunted Christopher. The 6,500 square foot house needed loads of renovation.
Oh my goodness, what are we going to do with this place? How are we going to do the things that need to be done to bring it up to speed?
The couple jumped right in and tackled the projects, and that's when they began unraveling the home's mysterious past. The couple's first questions were why their street was called Old Lawyers Hill Road, and why their house had a historic plaque outside that said The Lawn. The deed revealed that a man named George Washington Dobbin built the house back in the 1830s. But who was he, and why did he build such a large home? Deborah headed into the home's mysterious tower to search for answers.
It seemed very fairy tale and storybook, so I actually couldn't wait to get up here.
The tower revealed a lot about the home's original builder. For one thing, there was a large opening in the roof. What was that for?
We've learned this is just not a room and a balcony for a princess, that this is in fact was an observatory.
An observatory in a house? Pretty fancy. So was George Dobbin a famous astronomer? His telescope must have been huge, and the roof itself rolled back for stargazing.
This was a huge piece of equipment that he had here, and he must have been very, very serious about studying it and enjoying it.
Their next clue turned up behind a hidden door in the entryway.
As we looked under the steps, just peeking about for artifacts, one of the things we found was a message in a bottle from one of the previous owners. And when we read the message, we got a feeling of the love that the previous owners had had for the home.
That wasn't all. Christopher also found a glass plate photograph of the house dated 1845.
We really didn't think we would find anything in the house to begin with, but when we found this, it floored us. So we continued to look for more things in the walls.
In the process, the library floors were refinished. Hiding under years of grime were rare two-tone wood floors.
You knew that this person had to be someone very prominent and very wealthy.
It was a very regal room, to say the least.
This is actually the most exciting room for me. I felt like this room really was trying to tell me something.
Built-in shelves lined the room, and they were filled with books. Many of them were law books. The others were on astronomy, and that meant a lot to Deborah.
The books were the first stepping stone to finding more out about this person that built this home.
She also came across this strange object.
It looks like this large magnifying glass at first glance, but it's got this yellow hue to it, and it certainly doesn't magnify, so that really made me curious.
Next, the couple found portraits of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln hanging in the library. Did George Dobbin know these guys? If so, he must have been pretty important. When they got an old scrapbook from the previous owners, they finally got some answers. They learned George Washington Dobbin was a wealthy lawyer and judge in Baltimore. He built this as his summer house and added on to it over the years until it became the focal point of the community.
Basically, he founded Lawyers Hill because when Judge George Dobbin built his summer home here, a lot of attorneys followed suit. And then that's actually where it's termed and historically known now as Lawyers Hill.
That explains the law books. And some old letters show that he met with Abraham Lincoln to discuss the Civil War. The Allens think that's why the Lincoln portrait was left behind. But that still didn't explain how astronomy fit into all this.
What he enjoyed personally was astronomy.
The huge observatory revealed he was passionate about the stars, and that magnifying glass turned out to be another tool of the trade.
We believe it's to look at the solar eclipse back in the day.
Judge Dobbin also dabbled in photography and may have taken that glass plate photo of the house. But there was still one question. Why was the place called The Lawn?
They call it The Lawn because it was originally a 9-acre plot. They expanded to 210 acres, and apparently it had large rolling lawns on either side of the home, which people pulled their carriages up to during entertaining.
The Allens are thrilled to have learned so much about their home and its colorful past, and they hope to preserve its legacy for years to come, while adding a few stories of their own.
It's so large that I think my goal now is to try and fill it. Maybe start the family.
You've done a good job so far with furniture.
Maybe pets.
Yeah, pets will work.
Still ahead, will the Millers get good news about their antique treasures?
I would estimate the value of your 4 sets to be.
Our expert tells them what it's all worth, next on If Walls Could Talk. Landon and Judy Miller discovered their home's hidden treasure was right out in the open all along. Now, it's time for our expert to tell them what all their stuff is worth. When the Millers bought this 1831 Georgian Greek revival, they learned it was built for Judge Orman, Alabama's first Chief Justice. They were even more excited to find that the judge had left the home filled with antique furniture that could be worth a lot of money. But the real treasure was on the doors. The couple found out their doorknobs were imported from England and made of Sheffield silver. Now the Millers are wondering what all the antiques and silver they've discovered are worth. And they're about to find out, because we invited appraiser Selma Paul, an expert in art and antiques, to take a look.
So Selma, you've had a chance to look around the house. Tell us what you found.
Well, right here we have a pair of bookcases. They are made of pine, probably southern yellow pine, and they would have been made at the same time that the home was constructed.
The judge had them built around 1831, and there are still 4 sets in the house.
I would estimate the value of the 4 bookcases together to be between $8,000 and $10,000.
$10,000! Not bad.
Is that around what you thought?
No. More. That's
Maybe
definitely
take
more.
a 0 off.
Next, Selma checks out the plantation desk. It has original leather and was built around the 1820s.
Pieces like this do come up for auction. As a matter of fact, they're not that hard to find. Often, the history of a piece of furniture adds to its value.
Sounds like Selma is gearing up for a big appraisal.
I would say the value of this is probably about $2,000, $2,500.
$2,000! Not bad for a desk that came with the house. But Selma is saving the best for last. Those Sheffield silver doorknobs that date back to the 1700s.
They are original doorknobs that were made in England in the Sheffield plate way. And that means they are copper and silver fused together.
The Millers suspect they're worth a lot of money, but they're about to find out for sure.
They are very hard to find. You never see them on the market, but in their restored condition. I would estimate the value of your 4 sets of Sheffield silver doorknobs to be $5,000 per set.
Right. Hey,
All right.
5,000 for each one?
For each restored set, yes. So there would be a total of $20,000 for the doorknobs.
20 grand! Landon and Judy had treasure hiding right on their doors. And it all adds up.
The value of the things that we've appraised here for you today total approximately $32,000.
Hey!
That's terrific. That's pretty exciting, isn't it?
So you found your buried treasure?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Now that they know the history and value of their home's treasures, the Millers are even more glad they bought the place. But they have no plans to sell any of it. For now, they look forward to carrying on the Judge's legacy and making his house their home. You never know what you might find if walls could talk. I'm Mike Siegel. I'll see you next time.
So in terms of the date of something like this?
This would have been early 1800s.
So around 2,500. What if I throw in the deer's head?
25 million.
All right. Attaboy.
Yeah.